Let's see how we can start to use batch render. Here I am in a folder that has 5 subfolders, alright, and in every subfolder I have a 3D object, in this case an obj, and a folder with textures for that object, alright. In this case the textures are just the normal PBR maps, ambient occlusion, base color, height, normal map, roughneck, metallic, etc. Alright, and I have the same structures for different objects. Now in this case I have an FBX, it is going to work the same as an obj. Now the simplest way to open batch render is to come here to the address and type cmd, right? You press enter and that is going to open the terminal in your current folder. And you know that it is the current folder because the address is right here. So to start having fun with batch render, you simply type here batch call.py and it is going to give you a list of presets that you can select from. Now these presets we saw in the last video come from the render preset folder and they are simple blend files, alright? They have a configuration inside, they have a lighting setup, maybe an HDR, and we can maybe open one of them. And you will see that if we add a cube or something and we go to the render, in this case this has an HDR. You can see if we turn off transparent, it simply has an HDR, right? And batch render will take the configuration of this blend file to render your objects, alright? So, in this case, this one is called simple render, and we can see it here in the list as simple render. Now I'm going to use this render preset, and I'm just going to type the number of that preset. I press enter, and that's going to run Blender in the background without an UI. Right? So let's go back here. And it is important to know that batch render is going to render all the files that are in the current folder, in this case objects, and its subfolders. So it's going to iterate to all of these objects. Now here you will be asked some configurations for the current batch. In my case, I'm not going to start teaching you how to render a turntable, so we can type here no, and or isn't, right? It is going to ask you if you want to render 42 angles instead of only 12. We are going to start with 12, so I'm going to type no. It's going to ask us the width in pixels of the render. I'm just going to do 2K for the X and the Y. And it's going to ask you if you want to offset the camera. Now this is important. Batch render is going to try to fit the object to the whole view of the camera. However, this isn't always perfect, so you need to do a little bit of offsetting here and there. In the case of not rendering a turntable, I don't suggest that you offset in the x-axis, so I'm going to put 0 and press enter. But I do suggest that you offset at least a little bit in the z-axis, alright? Now, how much you need to offset, that's simply something that you will have to try and test to see if the values that you are inputting are correct for the object that you are trying to render. In my case, in this occasion, I'm going to put a value that I know it is wrong, so I can show you how you can cancel an operation and change the values later. Alright, I'm going to press 5, for example. Displacement in this case doesn't matter because we are using Eevee and we don't have Eevee support for displacement, so we can put any number there. Emission, we do have a material with emission, which is the pistol, and we have here the emissive map. And for this pistol, I know that 80 is a correct value, and again, this is just something that you will have to try. Now texture tile, this is going to take all the maps from the materials and it's going to tile them. In your case, if you don't want this, you can simply press 1 for all the axes and it's going to ask you to confirm the settings, right? We are going to confirm and it is going to start working. Now we can go to the adapter folder. As you can see, it has started with the adapter object. We can come here, and in case this gets frozen, you can press Ctrl C, and that should make it work a little bit. And as you can see, it has created a render folder here. Now the adapter isn't taking the majority of the image, and that is because the set offset, which I use 5 in this case. So we can see how we can cancel this render in case we want to change a configuration. You can simply press Ctrl C here multiple times, right? And as you can see, that has interrupted the execution of the script. Now I think that in Mac, the command to do that is command period, but you can also try with Ctrl C or command C. Now let's run batch call again. If you simply press the up arrow, it will remember your last instruction. Let's select again our render presets and let's set our configuration. Now camera push in X, and in this case I'm going to use something like 0.3, which I know works a little bit better for this object, right? Same thing, mission, and let's confirm. And now it is going to start rendering again, overriding the previous files, and as you can see in this case, it matches the frame of the image a bit better. Another important thing is that batch render is automatically matching the maps from the texture folders to the materials of the object. And as you can see, these are the renders that it has created. Now we can go to the Axe folder and it will be doing the same thing. It's going to create those renders there. And you get the idea. It's going to do the same for the crate, for the matcher, and for the pistol. Now I'm going to cancel this operation because I don't care in this case. Ctrl C, right, multiple times if you need it. And let's now see how we can render a turntable. In my case, I'm just going to show it how to do with the pistol. So if I type here cd pistol, it is going to move me to that folder, the pistol folder, and I can batch call here, and it's going to operate only for the pistol, right? I'm going to use the same preset. We are going to confirm that we want a turntable. In my case, I'm going to do 120 frames at this resolution. Now for the camera push in X, I do recommend that you push the camera in X when you are doing a turntable. I'm going to try with maybe 2 or 1. And I want to move the camera a little bit down so it is not pointing down towards the pistol. I'm going to try with negative 0.2. We don't have displacement. Let's do an intensity, emission intensity of 80, and we don't want to tile. So it's going to start working there, and we will see the folder here, and it is rendering the turntable. Now as you can see, it is pretty small, and this is because the X offset is pretty big, and that is because this offset has really small dimensions, so 1 unit compared to this object is a pretty big change. So I'm just going to do again. We are going to set this. Let's try, for example, 0.5. And the X offset was pretty nice. I'm going to just delete this, right? And let's try again. Alright, as you can see, here we have our 120 frames. Now I'm not going to teach you how to convert this to a video. There are a bunch of tutorials on how to do that, and you can do it inside of Blender as well. But this is basically what we have, right? Now let's try render something with cycles and with some displacement. Now as you can see here, I have 3 folders. Each folder has the same objet, which is a subdivided UV sphere that has around 30k polygons. And here I have just some maps of a seamless texture. Alright? In my case, I'm just going to use the dirt material, but it's the same for all the other ones. Now again, I just can type here cmd batch call.py, and if we want to render with displacement, this is going to work only in cycles. Now we have here a preset that has cycles, and this is basically just the same preset of the simple render, and I literally just came here and changed the render aging from Eevee to cycles. Alright, and I saved a new blend file just for a cycles preset. Now in my case, I'm going to first render with those cycles so we can check if our offsets are okay. Right, I don't want a turntable, right? And you know what? I want actually 42 angles for this case. So let's say no, yes here. I'm not going to push in X. Let's try 2.5. We are not having displacement in Eevee, and we are not having emission in this case. Now, because this is rendering on a UV sphere, and I am rendering basically a material, materials tend to get stretched on UV spheres, so I'm going to dial the texture on the x-axis by 2. So that's going to reduce the stretching for the material. Just going to confirm. And it will start rendering here. Alright, so that is done. That was like 30 seconds or less. And here we have our render. And now let's try the same thing, but with cycles and with displacement. Now, for having displacement, you need a height map, alright? So, batch call again, going to select the cycles preset. Another table, choose 12 angles. I'm going to go pretty small because cycles takes a lot of time compared to Eevee. Same settings. And we can set our displacement here. Let's say 0.75. I don't have emission. Tile X into 1 and 1. And let's confirm. Alright, and that's going to create a new folder with the name of the preset. And as you can see, this is what we have. Now as you can see, it's taken a lot of time compared to Eevee, but at least we have the displacement. Now just a reminder that in the description you will have a link to the written documentation of Fast Render. Here you have an usage section that teaches you all that I am teaching you in this video and more, alright? So take a look here, it explains all the settings and some other interesting stuff. Now let's see how we can create a preset for batch render. For that you can simply start Blender. Now once you are inside of Blender, you simply will need to create a light setup. So let me have a test subject here. Alright. And let's add an HDR. And this is HardOps, which is a really nice add-on that I suggest that you get. And let's add some lights for this. And maybe even our own point light with a lot of power right there. Now in my case, I want a render with transparent background, so I'm going to check this here, right? And you can choose check and configure this Blender file until you like it. Now to save the preset, I'm going to delete the cube because I don't want it on my renders. You can press Ctrl S to save. If you go to the folder where batch render is located, go to render presets and name this whatever you want, my preset for example, to be original. And now let's try using it. So here I am on the create object, same deal, cmd, batch call.py, and here we have our preset. Let's press 0 to select it. Let's confirm, and there we go. Alright, here we have our folder, and this is how it looks with our preset. Alright, so as you can see, it is extremely easy to create a preset because it is just a blend file with some configuration with a light setup or whatever you want. You can use planes with emission or whatever you do in your normal renders.